You're on mute, buddy.
North South Connection. Welcome to WWE WAR. Wrestling Above Replacement. I'm JT. That's Marcus, where we honor all the legends, such as Test and Jeff Jarrett, by listening to their theme songs at the beginning of every episode. This podcast is in both audio and video format. On video over on our YouTube channel, North South Connection. On audio on any podcast application under North South Connection. And many of our shows are simulcast. We also have exclusives to each. If you followed our YouTube channel, you know that we ranked every single War Games match recently. And we have some fun stuff cooking for 2024. So get your subscription in. Be sure to check it out every day to see what's hopping and what's dropping. And tonight on WWE WAR, Marcus, we're going to continue to cover a very exciting season for us.
That's right, man. We're continuing along with 1990 and 1991. Question for you. Have you ever felt like Demolition Axe here at Survivor Series 1990, which is the first show we're going to be covering?
Have I ever felt like, yeah, my hair isn't far off right now, honestly, if I would have left it. But,
have you ever gone into like a last day of work, like
yeah, just completely disheveled. I mean, maybe it's more like a senioritis feel too, like senior year, senior week in high school or something, where you're just kind of checking the boxes and screwing off. But yeah, Axe, he did not want to be here on this night, but we do want to be here talking Survivor Series 1990. On this program, we're going through every WWE pay-per-view ever in a seasonal format. So that means we start with a pay-per-view following WrestleMania. We end at WrestleMania the following calendar year. We're currently doing the 90-91 season. So we started with SummerSlam 90. We're ending with WrestleMania 7. For this season, we're doing things a little abnormally. Normally, we do 2 pay-per-views an episode. Because the season is so short and so much is going on, we really want to relive the nostalgia. We're breaking these down, slowing down just a minute during the season. We're doing 1 pay-per-view per episode. So tonight, we're only covering Survivor Series 1990. We're doing that in a series of metric-based categories. So if you think of everything we look at as a replacement level event, a generic match, a generic moments, a generic crowd reaction, just baseline, that's where we start. Anything that's above that normal response gets a +1. Anything below that line gets a -1. We do that in a series of categories, net all that out. We grade every match, we net that all out, and then that gives us our total WAR score. So the way we do this is looking at all kinds of things when it comes to pay-per-views. We don't just go based on great in-ring action or poor in-ring action. Stuff has to happen. The crowd has to be engaged. There has to be good build. Marcus will go through the categories proper in a moment, but all of that gets mixed up into our final score. So we have some interesting stuff at the top of our list. I think some of it jives with what you would think of when we think of great pay-per-views, but there's also a lot of different stuff that we have in place as well, Marcus.
Yep. So I will go over our categories that we go off of. First, we start off with build, followed up by commentary, atmosphere, notable moments and importance, match grades, card structure, rewatchability, and all-time matches. And an all-time match is anything we both agree is 4.25 and above for it to count as a plus, and 0.75 and below for it to count as a minus. And that is, of course, a consensus grade.
Yep, and for those match grades, so Marcus, you take your score, we take my score. So let's say it averages out to a 4. 2.5 is an average match. So 2.5 to 4 is a +1.5, right? If it's we give it a 1, that's a -1.5. So we kind of add all that up. Everything, if you think of everything we do here, it's all about plus minus from the average. So, all right, let's talk Survivor Series 1990, November 22nd, 1990, from Hartford, Connecticut, the Hartford Civic Center, 16,000 in attendance. Gorilla Monsoon and Roddy Piper on commentary again. I should say it again. Piper's here again. Gorilla, of course, we hadn't heard yet this season. Our dark match was Shane Douglas defeating Buddy Rose. A pretty interesting little dark match there. Kind of ships passing in the night, I guess, when you think where Shane's headed and Buddy's kind of on the downswing, but kind of cool. And then we're going to dive right into our card here. So our opening match is a Survivor Series. These are all Survivor Series matches tonight. Opening match features the Warriors, Ultimate Warrior, Hawk, Animal, and the Texas Tornado, defeating the Perfect Team, Mr. Perfect, Axe Smash, Crush, in 14 minutes and 20 seconds. Perfect gets left alone against Warrior and Tornado. He eliminates his rival, the Tornado, but then falls to the Ultimate Warrior. in the end when Warrior blows out of the perfect plex and then finishes him with the big splash. So I went 2 3/4. I mean, I think it's a fine opener. It has a stupid double DQ of Demolition and LOD, which I hate. I think it's lazy booking, especially with Demolition on their way out anyway. Like, if there was ever time for Axe to get pinned, this is pretty much it. Um, if you want to protect Smash and Crush a little bit, I get it, right? Whatever, but I don't see why you don't have Axe at least get eliminated.
That's what they do, right?
Just a
Doesn't
little bit.
Axe
Yeah,
I
you're
think
right. He does
yeah,
get
it
eliminated.
gets the big splash, I
But
think.
but that's it. Smash and Crush are also kind of on their way out anyway
Yeah.
too. So I mean, I would have had LOD mow through all of them, and then maybe Demolition baits them out and they get counted out or something if you want to
Mhm.
protect them. Um, but I'll be honest. I think this is one time where I just would have had. I think I guess it's tough because they wanted to not. They had to think of the main event, right, with the grand finale match, so they couldn't do too much. But like LOD and Warrior surviving here would have made sense to me, given where LOD is. But I guess then you're really stacking that main event up beyond maybe what you need to. I guess maybe you could flip a result later in the night. With like Tito winning, and maybe you just do LOD, Warrior, and Hogan. That would have been pretty awesome. And you probably could have stacked up that other team enough to combat them. So minor quibble, but I think LOD surviving here would have been pretty cool.
Yeah, especially when you think about that main event team, when we get to the ultimate match of, or the grand finale, the match of survival at the end. I mean, you had like Hogan, Warrior, and the Legion of Doom and Tito. That's a pretty dope team, and I'm sure we'll get to other ways that they could have evened out the heel side of things. Um, but yeah, man, 2.75 for me. I think you covered everything pretty well there. So I will move on to our next match, which is again a Survivor Series match. And it is Dusty Rhodes, Coco Beware, and the Hart Foundation taking on Ted DiBiase, Undertaker, and Rhythm and Blues. Oh, you mean that Ted DiBiase? Um, this match, of course, is the legendary debut of Mr. Undertaker, Mark from Texas,
Mhm.
making his pay-per-view debut, his on-screen WWF debut. And the match is all about establishing him, getting him over. Eventually, he's gonna get counted out, leaving ringside to brawl back with Dusty, and the story turns into Brett outlasting Valentine and DiBiase. Ultimately, Brett falls to DiBiase, which leaves the $1 Million Man as the sole survivor. I went with a WAR of 3.25 for this, and I really like the finishing back end with Brett and DiBiase.
Yeah, I gave it a 3. The first half is kind of all over the place. Like Honky is, I mean, he's pretty much cooked after this, so he goes down with a whimper. Anvil kind of goes down easily. Dusty, we've talked about him. Like he's really at the end of his days here. He's, gets pinned pretty easily by Undertaker, and then I know the Taker elimination's interesting too. Like I get you're probably not going to have him go to the main event, um, so you had to have him get eliminated somehow. It just looked kind of stupid with him just like fighting with Dusty because Piper even calls it out in Gorilla. Like they don't really protect him. They just got to say like he's dumb because he followed him out. So I think this is a case where you just have him beat the shit out of the ref or something. Like he beats Dusty, kicks the shit out of him. The ref is like, all right, break it, break it. Taker picks the wreck up, maybe like choke slams him or something. You know what I mean? And then it's like an emphatic disqualification versus just like walking out of the ring getting counted out. Obviously, Undertaker moment is a big part of this. I mean, it's iconic. It's a legendary debut. Good on Coco for putting him over strong as well. In that moment too. So that was a cool bit. And then yeah, Brett and DiBiase is awesome at the end. I mean, that's the highlight of the match. It's an infamous one too. Brett's brother had just passed away, so he dedicates the match to him. They talk about that, and it's we're on the doorstep now with the Brett singles push, right? So this is
Mhm.
kind of another preview of what's to come with him in that role. So I think it's by design. He's the last one out there with DiBiase. Protecting DiBiase made sense too. He's got the title match the next night with the Warrior on the main event, so they had to keep him strong for that. Uh, I think the one thing they could have done differently, I don't really get why they didn't have Dustin Rhodes in this match instead of
Mm.
Coco. Like I like Coco, like I'm fine with it, but you think like everything was building toward Dustin being in there. You know what I mean? So like I don't fully understand why. And of course, originally it was supposed to be Bad News Brown. He gets pulled out, and then they do the mystery guy instead. But so yeah, I mean, a legendary moment, a fun finish, but beyond that, not much going on, and some questionable booking stuff. All right, up next we have another Survivor Series match as Jake the Snake Roberts, Jimmy Snuka, and the Rockers who are the Vipers versus the Visionaries, which is a great team name. Rick Martel, the Warlord, and Power and Glory. Um, I think this match right here, Marcus, is the peak of Power and Glory, because by the end of the night, we're going down the hill. But here, this is like, they look awesome. They have the Powerplex. It's the first ever time a whole team survives with the Visionary, so that's pretty cool. Sean, another guy that's getting to be close to the doorstep of a solo push, gets a lot of shine in this match as a singles guy. He looks good. Beyond that, the only other big thing to note is, Jake obviously ends up down 4-1, doesn't give up, but Martel baits him, and Jake only cares about destroying Martel. So he chases him off and gets countered out in the end after hitting the DDT on the Warlord. So this is fine booking. Again, it's a pretty good match. It's long, but I went 3 stars. I think it's a perfectly fine anchor match on the card.
Yeah, this one definitely felt long to me, but also I didn't mind it. I went 3 as well, and yeah, this is the peak of Power and Glory. They probably should have
Before
just
you know
packed
it,
it on home for the night because yeah,
they're going to be sour and
they
gory.
gory. Yeah. Our next match is the Hulkamaniacs of Hulk Hogan, the Big Boss Man, the Tugster, Tugboat himself, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan taking on the Earthquake, Dino Bravo, Haku, and Barbarian. I went with a WAR of 2.75 for this match. Of course, Hogan is your sole survivor, last eliminating, I believe, Barbarian. Cool to
Yes.
see them give Barb some run. Always felt like Barbarian was the guy that should have been positioned to be Warrior's like
Mm,
first big feud, like coming out of like SummerSlam. I
yeah.
felt like by this time they should have been pretty deep in a feud. Um, got a great look. Works a great style. I mean, we were super impressed, or we are going to be impressed next pay per view that we talk about with his match with the Big Boss Man.
You mean instead of
Um,
ostensibly feuding with Axe? Because when you look at that 6-man, like, that's kinda how he's lined up.
yeah,
Because that's the whole fall feud, is him and the LOD against Demolition, so
yeah. So, but yeah, this is pretty standard fare. 2.75 for me.
yeah, I went 2.5, like, it's okay. I think it's a match that should be better when you look at it on paper, like, Boss Man is red hot, Hogan's hot, Duggan's always over, Tugboat's whatever, Barbarian, Haku, great workers. Like, there should have been Quake is a great worker. Like, there should have been a lot more to it. Um, Instead, it's just kind of weird. Duggan gets DQ'd with the board. Like, it's just fucking dumb.
Just kind of
Um,
feels like everybody's on house show mode.
it does. It's a weird show. It's a show that's like the epitome of nostalgia driven. I think it's similar to '89 in that regard. Like, the nostalgia is so high and the taker moment so big. I think people romanticize the grand finale match. But when you really sit and watch it, it's just mid. Like, it's not even bad.
Mm.
It's very mid. Um, I like Barbarian being at the end, like you said, because it continues kind of that showcase vibe. Perfect in the opener, Brett and DiBiase in the second match. Now, then Michaels kind of got the spotlight a bit in that other match, and now Barbarian in this one. So they kind of seem to be giving a guy, like an unusual guy, a spotlight in each of these matches. Um, I do think this was hurt too by Rude getting fired, or not getting fired, I should say quitting before the show, because he would have been part of this instead of Haku, and you would have had the heat for him and Boss Man. Instead, Boss Man, is gunning for the Heenan family now. He's off of the Rude piece, but that's another substitution on this card that I think that one ends up hurting the card, at least from a heat standpoint in this match. I don't know where they would have went with it, but and again, it seems like every match we're getting like the opener we had LOD and Demolition double DQ. Second match we had Undertaker walks away and gets countered out. Third match, Jake the Snake runs away and gets countered out. This match, Duggan gets DQ'd, Earthquake and Tugboat get countered out, right? So it's like Duggan did get DQ'd, right? He comes with the board and he gets
Yeah.
DQ'd.
Hmm. Hmm.
We're gonna see it again in our next match. So and the main event. So like every match on this card, there's either a DQ, um, a double DQ, or a double count out to eliminate guys. Like, I don't know. It's not a very creative show when it comes to the different eliminations. And I think the one lasting imprint from the show was it was obvious that they needed to add something different to Survivor Series. Like, I think everyone loves the Survivor matches. It's cool, but like by this point, it's like, okay. And I think they tried it with the grand finale and the egg and all that, but like I think the show needs a hook, right? So next year we get a world title match, and then from there it kind of evolves. But I think it was obvious that there's something needed to be put in the mix. Um,
I'm
it looks like you're
curious if
coming out of this. Yeah, good.
I'm just curious if Patterson's in the company this time or not, or if he's away because like I know the Ring Boy scandal, that's around
Yeah.
this time period. So I don't know if Patterson's there, if he's having one
Well,
of
when
his
you look
many
at the Rumble
absences for
too,
the
it's
company.
one of the weirder booked Rumbles with
Yeah.
we'll talk about in our next episode, but like guys in there forever. Not a ton of creative elimination sequences. So yeah, I mean maybe he was someone who's more in the know, Jonathan Black or one of our diehard listeners. Hopefully, will pipe up and let us know. Is there something that's known about this era where maybe Patterson wasn't as involved in the day to day?
How happy do you think Hogan is that Rick Rude quit the company so he didn't have to be
Has to
across
deal with
from
him in
him?
this match. Yeah. Um, And it's weird too. You leave this match thinking like Tugboat and Earthquake is the next feud. Like it felt like
Mhm,
they're transitioning Earthquake to Tugboat off of Hogan with the way they brawl and get countered out. Does it really go that way? Because Quake and Hogan are on the house show circuit till Mania, pretty much. So
mhm.
it's just a weird stretch of booking from them. I think Tugboat and Quake would, obviously have their little stuff go on but even then they're starting to start Quake and Jake after that, after Mania. So I don't know. It's just a very weird time frame.
They're very scattered.
Yeah.
Um, well, it's not gonna get much better. Uh, ain't much better in here, kid. As we have Nikolai Volkov, Tito Santana, and the Bushwhackers taking on Sergeant Slaughter, Boris Zukov, and the Orient Express. Oh boy. I went 1.25. And that is not factoring in the 37-minute promo with the drum roll in the background and Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah. My favorite part of that is Sato standing in the background, just agreeing with everything he's saying. He's another
they
guy who's
all
pretty much out the door after this show. So him and Axe, I think, are on the same plan on this pay per view. Just
they all
ready to
use the
get the
wrong
fuck out of
paint.
there.
They all use the wrong face paint. Their face is so oily. Yeah, it's a sight. It's a sight. But yeah, I think was at 1.25 for me.
I went 175. I don't know. I must have been feeling good watching
Very
this because
generous.
it's pretty wretched. It's such a stupid setup. Like they're rushing the match, right? Because they still have to do the egg and the grand finale. I think the egg hadn't happened, right? It's after this match, I think, right? The
Yeah.
egg and then the grand finale. Yeah. So they still got two things to do. Um, Slaughter's promo, I think, is longer than the friggin' match in the aisle. And it's such a waste. Like Slaughter and Nikolai are the captains. Nikolai gets eliminated. His team quickly eliminates Slaughter's team, so it's 4-1 within like a minute. So Orient Express look like bitches. Boris is useless anyway. It was supposed to be Akeem, another downgrade on this card. He left right before the show. A lot of subs on this card as usual for Survivor Series. Um, and then it's 4-on-1, and then Slaughter just destroys the Bushwhackers and makes Nikolai look like a bitch. And like Nikolai's supposed to be like the top dog of this match on the face side. He gets pieced out quick. Tito gets revenge for the Survivor Series showdown with Slaughter beat him. Tito ends up hitting the flying forearm, but Slaughter had then pulled the ref in the way or whatever the fuck happened, and you get the usual Slaughter tap on the shoulder. Ah, yeah, Dixie won, and then he gets disqualified. So this is the guy you're positioning as your world title contender in a month and a half, right? And like he's not even beating this motley crew of a mess. Like I think the grand finale idea is really cool as a concept. What hurt them is their obsession with face versus heel at this time period, right? Good
Mhm.
versus bad. What they could have just done is gone against that grain just a little bit and done like a random battle bowl type of random draw with the winners. So have all the survivors go in and then just pick the random teams and you can balance them a little bit. So you can maybe have a Slaughter make the finals. Maybe him and Warrior go at it to tease Mania. I mean, to tease the Rumble. Maybe LOD could have been in it. Maybe they're against Hogan and Warrior. Like that could have been cool too, right? So maybe do a draft. Like there just could be some way to make it interesting where you're not force feeding these sides. Like Tito only wins this, so it's not 2-7, right? Or whatever. So I think that's the only reason. And it ends up making Slaughter look kind of weak. It's cool that Tito gets the main event and gets to stand next to Hogan and Warrior. Like that's kind of a cool lifetime achievement thing. But I don't know. I feel like the grand finale was more stress than it was worth on this show. Another path would be just not to have this match. No one in this match needed to be on this card. Besides, if you want to give Tito a spot, you could have put him somewhere else. Like instead of Coco, just have Tito with Dusty, or have Tito with Hogan if you want to switch someone out there. Like there's ways you could have done it, and then just have Slaughter do a promo like he did at SummerSlam. Like Savage does one on this card. Have Slaughter do one too. setting his goals for next year, challenging Warrior. And now all of a sudden you come out of the show with Savage issuing a challenge, Slaughter issuing a challenge. You're setting up contenders for Warrior. Like, to me, that would have been more effective than what they did. And either that or get rid of the grand finale, because that, to me, that hampered this card. You could have easily opened with Hogan and closed with Warrior, or flip flopped it and been just as good.
I always thought an easy way around that would just be have like, all right, the first two winners, or the first winners of the first two matches, they'll be the team captains. And they'll be one team, and they'll each be on a team, and then from there the rest of the winners can pick what team they want to be on. And you're just kind of alternating face and heel wins anyways. So you basically get a draft without having to do a draft.
Yeah, or a random draw,
Yeah,
whatever it is. Like, it's just it almost is like it makes the kayfabe piece look even worse. Like, by all the good guys are on this side and the bad guys are on this side. I think even in the commentary at one point, someone says something along those lines, like almost like this. I forget what it was. I thought, but it was something along those lines. I don't know. It's just a weird. Yeah, it's just weird. Like,
yeah,
they booked themselves into a corner by doing it that way.
yeah. Now you're just a few years older than me, so I missed out on like Sergeant Slaughter being a big deal, like in the mid '80s, GI Joe, all of that. So, like, when I look back on wrestling, it's like Sergeant Slaughter is just kind of like pigeonholed into this top
Yeah.
heel run. So, was he really like that big of a deal? Because, like, from what I'm seeing, he had to be a heck of a negotiator. Or he knew where some bodies were buried of Vince McMahon. Because I don't see any reason why from SummerSlam to here through the Rumble to WrestleMania, he's going to be the guy in that spot.
I did not see his early stuff live. Like, I started watching in '90, right? So, and it was right around SummerSlam, really. So, like,
Okay.
he'll come back. I did know him from GI Joe, but I was never a big Joe guy. I was a big Transformers fan as a kid, over GI Joe. So I can't say I was like a diehard, knowledgeable Slaughter guy. Um, and they didn't really do a huge job of like putting over his past when he comes back. They barely talk about it in any
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So it was weird. Um, I think the Iraq War really helped him. Like, I think they brought him back to be maybe an upper mid card heel. That could be like name value and add a little bit of that. Like, he was coming off the AWA run, which is, he was kind of the top dog there. He did have the GI Joe name value, so I get why they brought him in. Um, I don't know if he ever would have risen very high if it wasn't for the Iraq War really escalating and becoming like a hot button issue, and gave them a path to give him that push. Like, I'm curious if that war just is a brief conflict and never full-fledged anything. Like, do they still get behind him in that role? Because when he comes back at SummerSlam, we talked about it. He mentions Saddam, but he's not really like big Iraq guy. He's more just American drill sergeant, shitting on the current state of men, right? Like, more than like ranting against America on behalf of Iraq, like he would be weeks later. So I don't know if that was a plan originally. Again, I'm sure someone that's listened to more shoot interviews than me or other podcasts would know more, but I don't think he was planned originally to do that.
I know supposedly it was supposed to be Tugboat, and they were supposed to get to the infamous Chic Tugboat. And
Yeah,
I think the Tugster maybe just had a bad reputation or something backstage, because he misses out on SummerSlam. He gets dropped out pretty quick at Survivor Series. He's
right.
barely in the match. And then they
I don't know if I
pivot
believe
to
the Sheik
Slaughter.
tugboat thing. I know Pritchard threw that out. I don't know. Like, I could see that maybe being like a coked out idea from Vince at like 1 a.m. Like, oh, what if we turn tugboat and he becomes a Sheik? Like, I don't know. Was that ever on a booking sheet of like WrestleMania's Hogan versus Sheik tugboat? Like, I just don't see it.
Hmm.
And I just don't feel like Hogan Warrior was completely off the table just yet. Like, why do they have them stand side by side to end this night? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they've already, sprinkled the Hulk dust on Warrior at WrestleMania 6.
Yeah.
So I don't see the need to do it again.
And I don't know. We still at the Coliseum at this point too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I still feel like Hogan Warrior was maybe, I don't know if they were full on, and maybe it's around this time they start to, because Slaughter is starting to lean in on the Iraq stuff, but he really amps up between now and the Rumble. So, all right. So it's after this match we get the revelation of the gobbledygooker. bust out of the egg. That's its own thing. We'll talk about. Obviously, there were rumors that was how Mark Calloway was going to debut the Eggman, and some other different stuff like that. So, uh, you know, I didn't mind the idea of it as like a tease for the pay per view. Uh, having it in the different arenas on TV and all that was cool. Gene's pretty funny early on, but what it ends up being, and then the next 10 minutes after that is like all time. Obviously, there's a reason Wrestle Crap had the Gooker Award for the worst stuff ever. Again, I don't know what they could have done differently. I think Undertaker debuting that way would have been ridiculous. Uh, I don't know. What do you think if it would have been Savage and Sherry in the egg, and it was all a
Um,
ploy for attention to get the attention of the Ultimate Warrior or something like that, and you know, remind the fans of who we are. I don't know, something like I'm just trying to think of like someone that could have used it as like a way to build heat versus
that would have been a pretty cool angle to have Savage in the egg and bust out and attack Warrior.
yeah,
That would be kind of dope. Um,
Sapphire. Maybe DiBiase had Sapphire in there.
yeah, something like that would be pretty interesting. And WCW in a couple more months, and 91, they're gonna do the boxes for Sting.
Right.
So that idea is like going out there. It's floating around.
I mean, anything's better than what we got. Like,
I thought they should have just like done this before the show and then air it like earlier on before we went live on pay per view. The
the egghead.
crowd got to see it first, and you clip it down.
Right.
And I know the guys need time to set up the match and get ready, but you clip the segment down to 3 minutes,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then run some other promos.
Yeah. The whole thing's a bit of a mess. All right. So that then brings us to the main event, which is Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, and Tito Santana versus Ted DiBiase, Rick Martel, Warlord, and Power and Glory. It's a cool artifact that like Tito is with Hogan and Warrior, that Power and Glory get the main event of pay per view. The match itself is express lane. They're obviously running low on time after everything else kind of went long. It only goes 9 minutes. DiBiase gets pinned pretty easily at the end, which doesn't make him look super strong, I don't think, for the next night against Warrior. Martel runs away yet again. Power and Glory get ruined because Hogan blows out of the powerplex at a 1 count. I don't think this helped anybody. Like, you get the cool moment of Hogan and Warrior standing tall at the end, but you could have done that anyway. You could have had Hogan main event. His team gets eliminated. Earthquake, Hogan beats Earthquake to end the match, and maybe Quake attacks him and Warrior makes a save, right, or something. And him and Hogan stand tall at the end of the night. It keeps DiBiase strong for the next night by not having him job out. Keeps Power and Glory from having their finisher destroyed. It's less time. Maybe you let Slaughter actually win that match. So as cool of a concept as this is, I really think it fucked the card up quite a bit. I
Yeah,
went
like
2 1/4.
it's still it feels like a half cooked idea. Like,
Mhm.
it's a hook, but there's no point to the end of it. Like,
No.
you're still missing something on the end of it.
Right. Give us even if they would at least would have put a prize on it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
this is for $1 million. Like, the winning team gets to split the money $1 million.
Right. You have the Royal Rumble coming up. It's number 30 in the Royal Rumble. It's preferential treatment, which you're going to run with a 92. Be something along those lines. Yeah, but it needed something just a little bit more, I think, to really draw it in and really make it count. But yeah, they're like halfway there. I went with a 2.25 with on it as well. And like you said, it doesn't do anybody any favors. If anything, it
No.
just it harms Power and Glory. They're never going to be the same.
No, the only cool
Martel.
moment is Hogan and Warrior together at the end. I mean, beyond that, there's really no other benefit to it. I think
Yeah.
it's a cool footnote, but I think it didn't help in any way, and if anything, it hurt. I think it actively hurt. Um, all right, let's get to our category. So that's a total score of 0.5 for match grades, which is that is on the very low end of
Yeah.
that's bad. For us, like a good war score for match grades is usually like 3, 4, 5-ish, and then like the really great stuff is like 6, 7 higher. 0.5 is probably one of our lower rated in ring shows that we've done. All right. let's get to our build here. We have a point for the build up of the Mystery Man, was well done. A point for the Perfect Tornado IC title war going on into this match. A point for Dark Dusty's Forlorn over Sapphire. He's hunting DiBiase. He's got the whole thing at Science Man event with Dusty. He's got the black and red polka dots because it's a little bit darker tack. So point for that. A point for Rhythm and Blues. Have been chasing the Heart Foundation all fall for the tag titles. That was a tag title feud around the house shows. I actually saw it. I went to a house show the night before this show in Providence. It was a Wednesday night. It's a cool night for a house show, the night before Thanksgiving. And that was the main event, actually. It was the Heart Foundation versus Rhythm and Blues. So that was going around the house show circuit at that time. A point for Rick Martel. Actually, we give 2 points. Rick Martel blinding Jake the Snake on the Burlove show. It's an all-time angle. Leads to a great Mania match and a feud till that point. A point for Rockers of Power and Glory, continuing their feud since WrestleMania that's been building. A point for Hogan and Friends versus Earthquake. A point for Boss Man going to war with the Heenan family. A point for the egg build-up. It was built up really well. And then a point for Slaughter adding General Adnan to the package that he has going on. So there was actually this is a really well built show. I think it's probably the strongest category we're going to have.
Yeah, let's get into the minuses. There's not too many. To counteract it, we've got the egg, we've got the slow death of demolition. They're back to Fuji, they've got new music, they've got the masks. It's all downhill. Using our world champion Ultimate Warrior in a 6-man tag feud. Rude bails out on WF and leaves Boss Man to feud with the rest of the Heenan family, and there's no direct rival in the match for Boss Man. So that's it, and that totals out to a +7.
Yeah, so very good score for the build. I was feeling all right after this. I'm like, all right, man, this show will
Yeah.
surprise. We'll see. All right, 2 points for Gorilla Monsoon. He is Thanksgiving wrestling for the WWF. Just you hear him, you picture the pilgrim hat on Jesse. You picture like the peanut butter pie and the turkey and all that, right? All the fixings that he loves. This is when you think of Survivor Series, the WWF Survivor Series era. Gorilla calls the first 5, right? I think he does 80, 70, 89, 90, 91. So he's the voice of Survivor Series for the first 5 years. So to me, like, he's Thanksgiving wrestling, just like Starcade was Thanksgiving solely and all that was Thanksgiving wrestling for Crockett. Like, to me, Gorilla Monsoon is Thanksgiving wrestling for the WWF. So 2 points for him. A point for Piper all night, kind of doing the tracker on the grand finale. He's like, "Oh, let me get the magazine. I'm gonna check off who won." Like, he was kind of
down.
Right, he's kind of hyping that up, so that was cool. Point for Piper, also hyping up Perfect in the opener. Did a really good job putting him over. A point for Piper talking about Dean Hart passing away and what that meant to Brett. I thought that was a cool touch. A point for the selling of The Undertaker by commentary, really putting him over. A point for Piper saying, I guess Brother Love hasn't heard of the blowaway diet, which is just a great joke for that era of WWF. And then another point for Piper saying the United States gives Russia MTV and 2 Live Crew, and Russia gives us Nikolai Volkov, which is a really funny line as well. So a lot of good commentary, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into it. We've got Piper's obsession with the Iraq war and conflict continues. Gorilla's weak, obvious. I think it's a tombstone for a guy that they just saw for the first time ever. Piper's over the top cheering and screaming for the baby faces all night long. It's way too much. There's a lack of balance in the booth. It's too heavy handed. Like, they overcorrected from SummerSlam, where Piper maybe leaned in a little bit more heel. They've definitely made an overcorrection there. All night Piper. All right, yeah. It's nonstop. So we went
and it's like this
overall.
fake laugh, but it's just like too much. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know how to do the noise.
This is great.
Yeah, it's super
Piper is yucking it up all night and jacking it to the gobbledygooker.
Oh my god,
Just makes it worse.
And I know he's just probably being over the top, whatever, like on purpose to be an asshole, maybe. But it's so transparent and fake. Like, I should be the new mascot. It's just like
it's for the kids. It's great.
Yeah.
They could have really used a third man in the booth.
He's a
this
lot.
night.
He's just a lot.
And Piper's dad joking all night about trying to survive at the Survivor Series. He's unbuttoning his shirt. He's sweating. He's fanning himself. I'm trying to survive. It's, all night. So that gives us a score of 0. All that for, well, it's better than nothing, but it's a 0.
Yeah, the positives help because there were a lot of negatives. It's just, Piper gives and he takes away pretty greatly. The gorilla tombstone thing is like really bad. It's like, it's so transparent. Just say like, I just got word that this is called a tombstone, right? Something like, I think it's a tombstone. What? I think it's a tombstone. Like, because even when like Don Morocco did it, it was never a tombstone. It was just like an inverted pile driver or whatever. So
Mhm.
I don't know if it ever been called that pre-Taker, So it just was like super obvious that they knew. So takes away from the surprise. All right, atmosphere. We give a point for the classic Survivor Series theme, a point for the monster Legion of Doom pop, a point for the monster Ultimate Warrior pop. Dusty Rhodes gets a really good reaction for a guy that's dead in the water. 2 points for the all-time crowd reaction to the Undertaker, just everyone kind of staring in shock of what's coming out. A point for the pop for Jake, and a point for the pop for Hogan. Those are all really good. It's a pretty good crowd overall.
Yeah. Let's get into the minuses. We've got oof. Yeah, this one hurts. The end of the original Demolition and Axis final pay-per-view, we went -2. The Gooker all-time Russell crap, especially when you could have used it for a major angle or reveal of some type. So we went -3, just because of how heavily it was pushed on TV as well. And then Hogan killing the Powerplex for absolutely no good reason.
Oh, brutal. I hate it so much. And it doesn't get any better with any watches. Like it's like still just real bad.
Yeah.
It's such an iconic move. And they could have brought that right into like, we'll see the team that ends up at Mania, but them at Mania beating the Hart Foundation for the titles at the Powerplex would have been awesome.
Hmm.
We just don't get there. All right, so that's a +3 for moments, so pretty good. 0.5 for matches we talked about. Card structure, a point for the grand finale is a cool concept. Again, execution leaves a lot to be desired, but the concept is, points for that. A point for the Warrior team being well assembled. You have the top stars of the 80s across the country. You got Tornado repping world class, LOD from AWA and Crockett, Warrior from WWF. They all go by the Warrior names, right? You got the Ultimate Warrior, the Road Warriors, the Modern Day Warrior. So like that whole aesthetic of that team is really cool. If you're like looking at like a meta level. Point for Undertaker immediately just destroying Coco and Dusty. That was great booking to establish him out of the gate. A point for Brett getting that solo segment with DiBiase as a soft launch. A point for Jake and Martel never touching. They really hyped the Heat for Mania well by not having them interact. And then a point for the Savage interview, lays him out as the next contender to Warrior. I think that was a good use of him on the card versus shoving him in one of these stupid matches.
Hmm. Yeah, I know he's hurt, but I felt like he was better presented being solo and like not being a part of one of the matches. He really felt like that was like a natural, like just like step up from what we saw from SummerSlam. So getting into the minuses, we've got no title matches. The concept is getting a little played out. The teams of four could have used an extra hook on the show. This might have been the right year to do a title match. We got the lame double DQ on the Demolition and LOD. It's just weakly executed and cheap and super repetitive, as we're going to see all night. The grand finale, cool idea. Again, it's cheesy. It's preset faces and heels. There's really no explanation as to how teams or sides are selected. We talked about it. Randomize it. Have team captains, a draft, something. Um, Too many DQs and countouts all night. Um, and again, like I think Patterson's thumbprint is missing from this. They're lazy, they're repetitive.
Yep.
We got the long Slaughter interview with the drum roll, super loud. As
It
his
is
team just stands
blaring.
behind him. It's so
Yeah.
loud. It's one of those things like if you fall asleep watching the show, this always wakes me up. The loud drum roll and Slaughter yelling about flies and turkeys or whatever, sand, and a sandwich. Whew, what else we got? So we went -2 there. We've got Slaughter doesn't survive during his big push, just to balance out the grand match of survival. Lame DQ finish where he thinks he won. Like he said, jumping up and down with the arms up. We got the Alliance and Mercenaries match as a joke, and it really exposes the business. The quick eliminations shouldn't even happened. And way too much Gooker on this card, and it's complete nonsense. So, JT, what does that grade us out at?
That is a -3 for card structure. So, I mean, there's a lot of negatives. Again, this is
Yeah.
kind of what this show looks like. There's some really good stuff in there, but there's a lot of bad stuff, and it just keeps canceling each other out for the most part. Outside of the build, really, so far. All right, rewatchability. Again, there's a ton, not a ton here, but it's balanced on both sides. You get the classic old school Vince narrated intros, which are always great for Survivor Series. A point for Bobby bumping around like a madman for Warrior. The opener is great.
Mhm.
A point for Brett and DiBiase's finishing stretch is supremely rewatchable. A point for the Powerplex, and then a point for Barbarian hitting a really sweet top rope clothesline on Hogan in that finishing sequence. Looked awesome.
Yeah, Barbarian rocks.
Mhm.
I don't think he ever stops rocking. For our minuses, we've got Demolition looking really sad and pathetic, especially Axe. His hair, the disinterest all over his face. No music of their own. They come out to Perfect's music.
Oh
That just
God,
didn't feel
disappointing.
like a good fit. Yeah. They got Fuji. We got Hogan's weird bob haircut.
Yes.
It looks like it's a fresh cut, maybe to get him to Mania or something, but it looks really bad. Oh, Suburban Commando, right? It's around this was filmed before this, so
Yeah, yeah, I'm guessing
I
that's
don't
why he cut
know.
it. I think he cut it for that. Although his hair's
Yeah,
pretty long as Suburban Commando, so maybe it's one of two things. Either that was extensions, um, or maybe he just grew it long and just it was too long and he wanted to cut it after that. But
yeah.
I'm guessing maybe it was short and then extensions.
We've also got Sarge's promo and the never-ending Gooker segment. So that gives us a total of 1 for rewatchability.
Right. So we had no all-time matches. So that gives us a total score of 9.5. I mean, I'll be honest. Going in, I think this is where I would have thought, like probably low middle. I know again it's a nostalgic show. There's a lot of cool moments, but I knew coming in it was riddled with questionable decisions on the show. It was riddled with not great wrestling, odd booking choices, the gobbledygooker stuff. I knew Piper's hit or miss. So, like, I kind of knew coming in this was probably gonna be one of those ones that really balanced out on both sides, and it's an average show. Like, I think it bears out. So, um, if you will refresh me on our tiebreaker, do you remember what that is?
Our tiebreaker is
Is it best match? I believe it's best match.
best match.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is currently tied at 9.5 points with Vengeance 2011. Uh, I'd have to go back and look, but I have to guess that there's a match on Vengeance 11 that's probably better than anything here. I'm going to look real quick
Gotta
for us.
be.
Let's see. Vengeance 11. Maybe not. Uh, what was the highest on this?
I believe the
325?
highest was 325 on
Yeah, that's the
the
highest on Vengeance as well. Um, Second highest, we have a couple of threes. Oh no, we have two 325s. So I think that probably puts it over this. I would say
yeah,
the only reason that wouldn't is if we just wanted to give it the full nostalgia push. But uh, if we go to the second tiebreaker, which is second best match, which I think we have had to do before,
mhm,
I'll say that Vengeance 11 nudges it out. So that puts Survivor Series 1990 in 82nd place, and that
oof,
is out of 109 shows. So
dang,
there's still 25 or so worse than it that we've done, but
yeah,
it's right in the bottom quarter.
I'm surprised. I thought this was gonna end up, like, in looking at other shows we've done, like, right around maybe, like, the mid-teens, like 16.5,
Mm,
Battleground 2015, Unforgiven 99,
yeah.
Hell in a Cell 2015, Backlash 99. I thought it was gonna end up in there. King of the Ring 99
I mean, it's
at,
significantly
16.
lower than like WrestleMania 2. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
which that's a show that you don't hear a ton of positive about usually. It's below
yeah.
Rebellion 99, below New Year's Revolution '05. So yeah, there's definitely some curious ones that it
Yeah,
checks in below.
nostalgia, it doesn't pull it up as much as I thought it was going to.
I'll say this: I think it did. I just think the negative ended
Oh,
up
yeah.
killing it. I think we gave it a shitload of points or moments or atmosphere, like all that really added up. Commentary, rewatchability, like all that stuff. There's a lot there. It's just the negative also bound just killed it. Like the card structure destroyed it. A lot of Piper, really destroyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all that stuff. The main event idea, the Gooker, like there's so much bad on there that really just dragged it down. So, um, So anyway, that's where it lands. That'll do it for us here tonight. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this trip. I guess we can give quickly our top 10.
Yeah, let's refresh everybody.
Well, that's all right. Let's do the top 10. Let's say we do the bottom since we're closer there. But let's do the top 10. So we're not going to talk about any of them. All right. So 10th place, we have WrestleMania 21 with 33.5. So that tells you the gap, 33.5 to 9.5. Is that far down?
At 9, we have SummerSlam 2015 with a 35.25.
Then we have Royal Rumble 2005 with a 36.5.
Number 7 is WrestleMania X8 with a 36.75.
Number 6, Evolution 2018 with a 38.
Coming in at 5th place, which is also tied with 4th place, is SummerSlam 1999 with a 38.25.
Tied with that is SummerSlam 1992, won the tiebreaker, same score.
SummerSlam 2001 with a WAR of 39.
SummerSlam 1990, the show right before this, 42 points, outpaced it, really crushed it. The follow-up here.
And our number 1 show as of date is Royal Rumble 2002 with a WAR of 44.
So we love our SummerSlams. That's clear. We talked about it quite a bit. 4 of our top 5 are SummerSlam. 5 of our top 10 are SummerSlam. So it's pretty obvious. SummerSlam seem to check all the boxes we're looking for. Just to give you some scope, our worst show is the Greatest Royal Rumble 2018 with a negative 17.25. Then Crown Jewel 2018 with a negative 9. So, it's almost 20 points worse than this. Again, this is low, but it's probably closer to that mid-range. We just have a lot that's in that slightly above average range that pushes stuff like this down. The real bad is quite a bit away from something like this, So, all right. So that'll do. We'll be back here in 2 weeks. We'll be covering Royal Rumble 1991. We're only 2 shows left in the season, so that's pretty cool. Be sure to check out everything at North South Connection. Leave us some feedback. Leave us a like and a subscription as well on YouTube if you wouldn't mind. We'd appreciate it. Thank you for all your support here in 2023. Looking forward to a brand new year in 2024 and continuing to bring the content. Hopefully you continue to bring us your love. You continue to live your life above replacement level. Stay out of any eggs.